Here's something nobody's talking about, the millennial mindset. Now with everything going on these days, scandal, debt, recovery, debt, nobody's really thinking too far ahead. It's all right here and right now, and I get why. We are or were in some pretty crazy times, and the severity of some of those issues demanded all our attention to the here and now. But I still wonder how the impact of today's solutions will affect tomorrow's generation.
That being the millennials. These are our future CEOs, future business owners, and future politicians, and most importantly for us, future homeowners.
But are they really future homeowners?
Again, nobody's really paying too much attention to these guys due to other social and economic problems, but if you stop and take a look at these guys, you'll find perhaps a bigger, broader problem.
These guys are underemployed and living with their parents in record numbers, no less. Now obviously these guys are being overlooked and nobody's really paying too much attention to them, but I think we as the real estate industry should stop and think about this.
This is the next generation of buyers, which will spawn the next generation of sellers, which will spawn the move-up buyers, and so on and so on.
Problem with that equation is the first domino isn't falling. A record 36% of millennials ages 18 to 31 are living with their parents. That's the highest number in 4 decades. That's a huge number of young people and a huge number of absentee buyers, over 21 million of them.
Now the obvious reasons they're opting to stay home are lack of jobs and student debt. We've talked about both these issues in the past, but what about the not so obvious reasons?
Like mindset and culture shift. First of all, these guys have only seen the bad side of real estate. Most of these young people went off to college only to see their parents lose their childhood home to foreclosure. That can't sit very well, and you know that impacted their psyche.
They see what their parents went through, and they aren't necessarily jumping at the chance to repeat their parents' failures. These millennials haven't seen the stability housing can give a family, and they have only seen the overmortgaged and now overregulated side of our real estate market.
Not too enticing to a young person. And how about the culture shift? This comes from the top down. Typically we have an administration pushing for housing because they get how impactful the industry can be and how much it can spur on the economy. But the millennials president hasn't really pushed for home ownership, rather he's pushed for cheaper housing in general, meaning more affordable rentals. Not a horrible agenda, but not one I necessarily support either.
Home ownership has always been the American dream. That's what America was birthed on. Settlers came here and staking their claim on their own land, and now today owning their own home and paying yourself back versus some greedy landlord.
Now for the silver lining. There's 21 million young people on the sideline, and a big number of those could be your next client. The tough part, you have to convince them that purchasing is a good idea and they will not end up like their parents if they treat their home buying process properly.
Think of it like this. It's like walking up to a gold mine. You know there's gold in the ground. You just gotta get down and dirty and mine it all out.
We need these guys. The industry has a cycle and we need to keep that cycle going. It's our job to properly educate these guys about the advantages of real estate. Case in point, if we don't, the cycle starts to break down, which we've already seen. Only 36% of people ages 35 and under own a home. That number's dropped from the norm of 45%.
And like we said, that affects the next generation. Their numbers are down as well. Only 61% of people's ages 35 to 44 are homeowners, and that is also on the drop from the norm of 70%.
These numbers will continue to drop unless we stop and recognize these young people.
They need help with student loans, they need help with jobs, and they'll ultimately need help with housing.
These young people haven't experienced a ton of success in their lives. This will require a millennial mindset shift, and nobody better to do that than you guys. Go spread the good word, and we'll see you next week.